Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Playmakers. What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going through my start sits at the quarterback position. So this is where I go through all 16 matchups, talk about all 32 starting quarterbacks, and then list them as a start or a sit. So basically what I trust them in my starting lineups here in week 5. While you guys are watching this, if you're enjoying the content, please just hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. It could be any fantasy football related questions, waiver wire, trade advice, start sits, anything, just drop it down below. And let's just get into the Thursday night football game. We have a nice divisional matchup here between the Rams and the Seahawks, and both of these quarterbacks are going to be starts. For Matthew Stafford, he's had a great start to the season, and the Seattle Seahawks defense has been pretty subpar, so he should have a nice game. And then you just cannot sit Russell Wilson. You know, he may not have the volume you were kind of expecting coming into the season, but he has still been very efficient. He has those top tier weapons with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, so he should also be a start. Then moving on to Sunday, we have the Jets traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. On the Jet side, Zach Wilson has to be a sit. He made some really nice throws on Sunday, and he led the Jets to their first win. I still just don't think, he's going to have the overall production to be a starter this year. He just doesn't have the supporting cast around him, and so he's going to have flashes, but just not someone you want to trust in your lineup. I'm actually going to be starting Matt Ryan. He's kind of had a slow start to the season, played well in week 4, plus this is a fairly weak Jets defense, so I think he can take advantage of that and have a big game. The next matchup here is between two divisional opponents, the Lions traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. On the Lions side, Jared Goff is going to be a sit. I really just don't trust his wide receiver core enough, and I honestly don't trust Jared Goff either, so he's on the bench. Kirk Cousins had a great first 3 weeks of the season, then struggled in week 4, but I still think he's someone you can trust as your starting quarterback, especially against this Detroit Lions defense. Saints and the Washington football team are up next here. On the Saints side, I just don't trust Jameis Winston. He has to be a sit. Since week 1 where he had those 5 passing touchdowns, he's essentially done nothing. On the Washington football team side, this was kind of one I went back and forth on because I have liked Taylor Heinicke so far this year, but then I was thinking, this is a pretty tough Saints defense, but I ended up going with a start. There are only 3 quarterbacks who have finished as a top 12 QB in all of their starts this season. Obviously, Taylor Heinicke has done it in 3 because he didn't start week 1, but he has just been super consistent. And, he may not be one of these top 12 quarterbacks this week, but he's definitely going to be on the fringe. Then we have the Patriots taking on the Texans, and I don't want anything to do with either of these quarterbacks. After the Sunday Night Football game, everyone was really hyping up Mac Jones, and he played well. He basically took what the defense gave him, but everyone was acting like, oh, he's the next big thing. I believe he had 1 pass over 20 air yards, and it was intercepted. I just don't trust him moving forward. The Patriots have shown how they're going to win. They're going to rely on their defense. They're not going to let them push the ball down the field. They're going to play very safe offensively. We even saw that at the end of the Sunday Night Football game. You have a 4th and 3. You'd rather kick a 56-yard field goal in the rain than trust Mac Jones. So he's a sit. And then Davis Mills, probably the clearest sit of every single starting quarterback. He looked absolutely terrible on Sunday, so I want nothing to do with him moving forward. Then we have the Dolphins traveling to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. Jacoby Brissett, even though this is a fairly weak Buccaneer secondary, I still don't trust him enough to have him in my starting lineup. He hasn't played super well in relief for Tua. On the Bucs side, Tom Brady, even though he's coming off a rough Sunday Night Football game, still locked in your lineup. He has these weapons. He's going to continue to play well, and you should feel very good about having him in your lineup. Packers and Bengals are the next game here for the Packers. No doubt about it. Aaron Rodgers is in your lineup 100% every single week. Then for the Bengals, Joe Burrow is also going to be a start. This isn't a super tough Packers defense that they're matching up against, and whether or not T. Higgins is in or out, I still think you can trust Joe Burrow moving forward. He may not have that overall volume. He may not have that overall passing volume that we were expecting, but he has been very efficient to start the season. Then I actually have 2 sits in this next game here between the Broncos and the Steelers. Whether it's Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock, I just don't want to play them against this top-tier Steelers defense. And on the Steelers side, Ben Roethlisberger has looked horrible. he should not be touching anyone's lineup, especially against this Broncos defense, which is also very solid. So we go from 2 sits to then 2 starts in the Eagles-Panthers matchup. Jalen Hurts has been a very pleasant surprise this year. I was definitely a little bit lower on him than consensus coming into the season, but I totally acknowledged that his ceiling was 100% there. Basically, the way I described it was that by the end of the season, he may not even be the starting quarterback. That was kind of, the negative side. And then the positive side was that he has a legit opportunity to be the quarterback one. That's how wide I really thought his range of outcomes was. He's been great to start the season. Even in the games where he doesn't, perform super well in terms of an NFL level, he still manages to put up fantasy production with his legs. So I love him basically as a start every single week. Then Sam Darnold, another very pleasant surprise. He's been great, leading the NFL in rushing touchdowns. He should be asked to throw the ball a little bit more now that CMC is out. He should be missing this game as well. So I'd feel good about Sam Darnold in my starting lineup as well. The next game I'm going to talk about is going to be between the Titans and the Jaguars. And for Ryan Tannehill, this was a very tough call between a start or a sit. On the graphic, I ended up listing him as a sit, and it's just because I'm expecting A.J. Brown and Julio Jones to both be out. And if that is the case, they're just going to feed Derrick Henry. Henry always just goes crazy against the Jaguars, and they should be able to get a lead early, which means they can really just rely on Henry down the stretch. However, if A.J. Brown or Julio Jones, it could be both, it could be just one of them, if they are playing, then I would trust Ryan Tannehill. This is not a good Jaguars defense, so if really Tannehill has any weapons, then I would want him in my lineup. On the Jacksonville side, Trevor Lawrence definitely played much better in week 4 than he did in the first 3 weeks of the season. I still just don't see the upside. His floor is very low, so he is going to be on the bench probably for the rest of the season unless he has some crazy turnaround. Then we have a great matchup here between the Browns and the Chargers. Baker's going to be on the bench. He was pretty miserable in week 4, and frankly, the Browns just aren't asking him to be that kind of quarterback who carries them to wins. They're going to rely so heavily on the run game and their defense. They just don't put a lot on his plate, which means he's just not going to be getting that fantasy production. On the other side with the Chargers, Justin Herbert should be locked into your starting lineup. He looked great on Monday Night Football, and I think he's going to continue to play very well. He's got great weapons in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Plus, you have Austin Eckler out of the backfield, so Herbert in your lineup. Then we have the Bears traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. I want nothing to do basically with this entire Bears roster except for Damian Williams because we found out that David Montgomery is going to be out like 4 to 5 weeks. But at the quarterback position, no thank you to Justin Fields or Andy Dalton. It doesn't matter who the starter is. I'm just not interested. On the Raiders side, I still think Derek Carr is a solid start. Obviously, in week 4, he didn't play up to the level he had the first 3 weeks of the season. But I mean, one bad game in the first 4, not going to fault him a ton for that. He should still be a solid, fringe top 12 QB moving forward. Then we've got a divisional matchup here between the 49ers and the Cardinals, and this could be a very exciting game for the young quarterbacks. So originally, it seemed like Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be missing at least a few weeks, which means that Trey Lance was automatically locked in as the starter. Apparently, there's still a chance that Jimmy G can play in week 5. Obviously, I think everyone for fantasy football wants to see Trey Lance out there. And so if Trey Lance is out there as the starting quarterback, he is going to be a start. If Jimmy G is the starter, he is going to be a sit. On the Cardinals side, this is a no-brainer. Kyler Murray has been great. He should continue to be great, and he is locked into your starting lineup. We have another divisional game between the Giants and the Cowboys, and I'm going to be starting both of these quarterbacks. Daniel Jones has just played so well to start off the season. I really don't think he's gotten the credit he deserves. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's been taking care of the ball, and he's been doing it with a banged-up receiver core. I know this Cowboys defense has been really solid as of late, but I still think Daniel Jones can put on a nice performance. We saw what he just did against the Saints, threw for over 400 yards. So I do like Danny Dimes in this game. And then for the Cowboys, Dak Prescott is also a start. He definitely hasn't gotten the passing volume that I expected him to have coming into this year, but he's still been very efficient. This offense, even if they've been relying on the run game, they've still been giving Dak a lot of opportunities to throw for passing touchdowns and get a decent amount of yardage. So he is also a start. Then on Sunday Night Football, we have the Bills traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. And this is really a no-brainer on both sides. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in your lineup. There's no way you're sitting either of those guys. Then for the last Week 5 matchup, the Colts are traveling to Baltimore on Monday Night Football. Carson Wentz is going to be a sit. He did have a, pretty solid Week 4 performance. They're really just not asking him to do a ton, and he just hasn't had the opportunities to put together some big games, so he's going to be a sit. And then on the other side, Lamar Jackson is a locked-in start for you. He should continue to play well going into Week 5. All right, so that is all 16 Week 5 matchups. If you guys enjoy the content, please just do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, let me know any fantasy football related questions down below in the comment section. If you guys want to see my start sits at the running back and wide receiver positions, I posted those yesterday. I'm going to be posting my tight end start sits today as well, so go look out for all of that. Thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.